Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I thank Allah for His love, His guidance, and His mercy, giving us many prophets and messengers, and among them, Moses with the Torah, Jesus Christ with the Gospel, Muhammad ibn Abdullah with the Holy Quran. I thank Allah for His intervention in our affairs, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, who raised up for us a divinely guided leader and teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I come before you this afternoon as a student and representative of their anointed servant, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I greet all of you in the words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. I am very thankful to Allah for bringing us this afternoon the profound message that was given to us through Minister Carter from the teachings of the Reverend Sun Myung Moon. And when you hear what I have to say this afternoon, you will think that we conferred on our notes. And though we did not confer in the physical sense, we know that there is a universal consciousness now, and that there is a desire among the entire human family to come now into harmony with the will of God. And I am, as I sit here, overwhelmed because as I see the array of human beings in this room, then I know that it was true what Master Farad Muhammad, the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said, that we would have friendship in all walks of life. And now it is coming to pass. And as our beloved brother, Minister Adrian, so beautifully and eloquently stated, we are coming now into the advanced stage of knowledge where we will receive truth from every color, from both genders, from every class, from every background in life. So if our mind is closed, then we may miss our own salvation. Because God is now sending messengers throughout this earth. Because He wants, as Reverend Carter said to us earlier, He loves us. He wants us to live a life of joy. And I am overwhelmed to be here in Mobile, Alabama, on this afternoon to share in this joyous occasion. And I do also want to thank our state representative, I was about to say the Honorable, and he is Honorable, Minister William Muhammad. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to very quickly share notes from a little booklet that I prepared called Queen of the Planet Earth. And it's just something that I want to contribute to what I think is already a bountiful table. So I will not take much time because we want to be able to fellowship this afternoon. Our creative force includes the power to make a thought complete and to combine that thought with other thoughts to form an idea. The frustration that comes from the apparent inability to achieve our personal goals is actually not recognizing the difference between a thought and an idea. A thought is actually an underdeveloped idea. Once we can form a real idea and connect it with another one, then form a new synthesized idea from the two, we will begin to see our own special purpose forming. And that process continues on until we touch the divine plan, purpose, and specific will of God. And as Reverend Carter said earlier, there is a great duality that really is at the root of everything in the universe, the positive and negative forces that come together. And as Minister Farrakhan has said, without the positive and negative polarities, you don't have friction. And without friction, you have no motion. And without motion, there cannot be life. Now, You and I know, we all know, as sure as we're sitting here, that we are not using all of our natural resources. We're using an infinitesimal, small amount of our mind. And most of us spend our time on the physical level operating, with frequent visits to the emotional level, fewer visits to the intellectual level, and very rarely a drop in on the spiritual level. Man is compared by Jesus to a house with many levels and many rooms, and that is our mind. Some of those doors are locked, and the staircase is either blocked, or in some of us, we haven't even constructed the staircase yet. So we're like a person who lives in a big mansion, but we live in the basement. We don't even know we have an upstairs, much less do we go and enjoy it. So we live in the lower part of our own mansion, in one or two rooms, in the dark, unaware of light, spacious, breezy, beautiful rooms upstairs that belong to us, but we don't even visit. So we are in a process of advancing to the higher levels of existence. And I must say, it is not a coincidence. In fact, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there is no such thing as a coincidence. There cannot be an accident when there is an omnipotent God. Everything happens either as a result of his active will or his permissive will. He either makes it happen or he allows it to happen. But nothing escapes his attention. On our end, things may look tragic and bad, but we are not realizing that everything is part of a scheme or plan for the ultimate good. But to advance to the higher levels of existence and live there, we have to begin building an internal network of creative communication lines. This means a direct private line to Allah, God, Christ, Jehovah. However you know him, you and I have to have a direct line to him so that we are so reflective of his spirit that he can actually communicate not only with us, but with others through us. Remember that Jesus said, I am in the world, but not of it. If life is to mean anything, we've got to be empowered. When a person consistently suppresses his or her instinctive or intuitive awareness of right or wrong, and when we constantly have to have the validation and approval of others for what we do, we lose the power of being human, which is to be divine. And everyone in this room, in truth, is following a teacher and following a truth that the so-called mainstream of society rejects. And so every day you are challenged and called upon to be able to function without validation or approval of what mainstream society considers acceptable. The beauty of that is that every time you stand up for what you believe in, you are empowering yourself, or should I say, you are opening the doors to the power that God has vested in you. Never, ever underestimate the power of your own creative juice to improve the condition not only of you, but of your whole sphere of influence. Studies have shown that doctors who pray for their patients' recovery achieve better results than those who rely on drugs and medication. It has been said that before a man can tread the path, he has to become the path. So the field of our experience is not limited to a waking state. We have contact with the Creator, but our contact is not fully registering because there's not a transmitting agent or direct line of communication. It's like a cloudy day when the sun's rays will appear for a moment and then disappear. That's how our life is. Divine energy is touching us now and then, but that's not enough. We have to have this energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that we can assimilate it and utilize it to transform this planet back into the Garden of Eden that it once was. Now, both Reverend Cotter and Minister Adrian spoke about the female. And in reality, we are in a time when the absence of the woman from the deliberative process of government, business, science, and above all religion has to cease. Because we've heard said a duality. The Holy Quran says Allah creates everything in pairs. So as long as the feminine thought pattern is absent, then the world is crippled. So it takes spiritually enlightened men such as Reverend Sun Myung Moon, whose wife has done a global tour. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who appoints a female over a mosque, not just the first time in the nation of Islam, but in the entire Islamic world. Women have been kept out of the teaching process, and it is killing the human family. So this has to be changed, because intuition is an attribute that is feminine in nature. It's not only in women, it is in male and female, but man and woman both have masculine and feminine traits, just as God himself does. He expresses himself in a masculine way and in a feminine way. Now, intuition is defined in some dictionaries as this, quote, a non-thought which bypasses the intellect and brings information that one did not know through education or past experience and did not logically think out or reason with. It's an inner knowing that happens spontaneously, whether you will it or not, and the divine guidance that the Creator instills naturally in all human beings, whether we recognize it or not. We all have a faculty, beloved, where God can confer knowledge on you and I in an instant. And that, as Reverend Cotter said, is why we cannot say we are exactly like the flowers or the whales, because all things that are living have some of God's essence, but only man, which includes male and female, is vested with the power, as he laid out for us, of dominion. What you heard this afternoon is not preaching, it's teaching. And that's what people need. Beloved, our powers of intuition are dying from a lack of use. That's why I'm so happy to see babies in this room and children in this room, because without babies and children, all of our efforts are joke. This is our immortality, our children. But we are not assisting them in the development of their intuitive powers. Why? Because too much television, too much internet, avoiding the lost arts of reading, writing, and conversation. Television is an awesome instrument. It is how it's being utilized that has given us a problem. Television is being used. Television is being used to promote a fictitious world that our children and us too are accepting as a reality. The internet cannot substitute for family and community interaction. That is what affirms and encourages spiritual and emotional growth. The next generation, if it continues like it is, will have zero social and human skills because they don't have to deal with people. If you call Delta Airlines right now, you are going to get a menu-driven voice prompter. Press 1 if you want to know the flight. Press 2 to find out your sky miles. Press 3 for domestic flights. Press 4 for international. So you press 4, then it says press 1 if you want first class. Press 2 for business class. Press 3 for this, that, or the other. If you call the telephone company, you want to inquire about your bill. If you call the power company, you can't get a human being on the phone. And finally, they say if you don't have a touch-tone phone, remain on the line for representatives, and then it takes hours. They did an expose on television, and they showed you on 2020 that when they put you on hold like that, they deliberately lengthen the time with the hope that you will hang up the phone to try to force you to do this thing through an automated system. So only the strongest, diehard, primitive, I want to talk to a voice, human being, makes it through that network. So our children are growing up with no knowledge of what it is like to say, good morning, how are you? Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. Because everything is done. Now they don't want you to come out of your house at all. Do everything on the internet. We will give you a discount if you purchase this on the internet. This is beautiful technologically. Don't misunderstand me. It is wonderful to be able to do things in an instant, but there is no substitute for mother, father, sister, and brother sitting down in the evening at that dinner table talking about the events of the day. We have to teach and learn the dictates of divine law. What we create within us is always mirrored outside of us. And when we truly give up trying to get something outside of ourselves, that's when we'll finally have what we always wanted. As Matthew 7:7 reads, ask and it shall be given you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. When we can envision, beloved, we can create or give form to the energy that is. Now, in the original language of the Old Testament, the word create means movement toward form. God said, let there be light, and there was light. When God speaks, he is executing power. Now, the word said in the original Hebrew and Aramaic tongue, said means lift up and push outward. So when God speaks, it's not just words. It is actually the pushing out and upward of energy. So as a human being with some of his essence, when you and I speak, that's power. So this is why we have to be knowledgeable and wise about what we say. Not only to and around our children, but to and around each other. And not only do thoughts condition words, but words condition thoughts. So when we use profane language and call somebody an MF or this or that, we are actually burning our own brain cells. Because the brain was created to think correctly and divinely. And so we have to show our children, see, when we say you have to speak in a decent language, show them why. It actually lengthens the life to read and study and speak the word of God. Now, light, the word light comes from the same word, root word as said. Light is spiritual reality. The Holy Quran says or reads, when Allah, God, desires a thing, he only says to it, be, and it is. Now, male and female, as I wind this down, male and female, as has been said, are more than gender. And it is the low reptilian thinking of this world that limits our perception of male and female to the genital. Male and female, as we have been taught by our two ministers, are the great polarities which make life possible. And as I mentioned before, without opposites, you have no friction. Without friction, no motion, rendering life impossible. Instead of man and woman repressing or denying the existence of one another, we have to engage in the process that includes conflict, which continues until we grow to a spiritual state where the resolution of conflict brings us peace. Marriage, Minister Farrakhan has said, is a replication of the process of becoming one with God. Inherent in marriage is friction. A couple that does not have differences is not even really married. If you say, I'm married and I've never argued with my spouse, you're not married because you don't care anything about that person. Because that means you're cold and distant. But if you really love one another, then on our raw, primitive level, until we grow, we're going to have conflict. So this is why marriage is so critical to spiritual development. Prophet Muhammad said marriage is one half of your faith. You can't say I'm truly a person of faith and belief unless you walk that path of actually living in the house with another person who is in the image of God, both of whom want to rule over their creation. The clash of the titans. And in the current society where everything is instant gratification, if we get in a relationship and we have a moment of despair, we are ready to pack our bags and leave. Because this society does not teach development of character. That there is a difficulty factor attached to everything of value. The Holy Quran reads, after ease comes difficulty, and after difficulty comes ease. Struggle is ordained, not because God wants us to be unhappy. He wants our character to develop so that we can qualify for a life of joy, as Reverend has said, because our purpose on this earth is to glorify Him. Now, in the Nation of Islam, men and women are taught and trained separately. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad made this statement. He said, 75% of the work is with the woman. Why? The men in the nation are called the fruit of Islam. And this is where I found this I was so awed by what I learned from Minister Cotter about fruitful. I'll be teaching that in my next lecture. And I will give you credit for it. Because I'm a student. I don't think you can be a teacher if you're not willing to be a student. And I took notes today. Because life is a constant learning process. Now, in the nation, we call the men, or the men are called the fruit of Islam, and the women are not called that. I heard Minister Farrakhan answer both of those questions in one statement at a dinner meeting. When he was asked, number one, why is 75% of the work with the women? And two, why are the men called the fruit? He stated, and I quote, if the male is the fruit, the female is the tree. And we heard Minister say, the tree in the Garden of Eden was symbolic of who? Not Adam, but Eve. Because Eve had to be perfected in her relationship with God. Now he stated The male is the fruit, the female is the tree. And he said, a man can be no better than the fruit, than the tree that bears him. He said 75% of the work in any orchard is in producing the tree. Once you have the right, healthy, proper tree, then the fruit is almost axiomatic. It's just going to happen. Now, what is a tree? Because after he said that, I wanted to look up what the word means. I mean, we've seen trees all our lives. And I love trees. And that's another problem on the earth, is the destruction of our trees. Because trees are the buffer between us and radiation from the sun. Trees clean the air. And when you destroy trees, you're destroying life. So when you destroy the female, you are destroying the environment. A tree is defined by Random House as a perennial plant. Perennial means it comes up every year on its own. Having a permanent, woody, self-supporting main stem or trunk, growing to a considerable height and developing branches at some distance from the ground. This, to me, shows the importance of the spiritual growth of the female. A woman has to be nurtured in the Word of God so that she comes up from her primitive lower self. So she's not driven by hormones. So she does not, as Minister Carter said, begin to multiply before she can become fruitful. A powerful attribute. All praises due to Allah. A powerful attribute of woman and tree that we have in common is that we create conditions. Like women, trees are dominant species in their community. In other words, the type of tree that grows dictates the makeup of the community. As the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if there are no decent women, there are no decent men. Because men move as high and as low as the women in their environment. You can't say, the men are out all night. Doing what? And with who? Because if all of the women are inside at night, then they have nowhere to go but home. Look at an oak tree. An oak tree dominates the forest. The tree that is in a forest dictates the kind of life forms that are there. Only animals that are capable and plants that can endure the conditions created by the oak can live in an oak wood. The tree manufactures the energy from the sun, provides shade, protects the soil from drying, curtails the movement of the air, and performs services for all the dwellers in that forest. Even the earthworm living in the oak forest eats the leaf litter and improves the physical and chemical properties of the soil. And so life, as I close, in line with my fellow ministers, has a double quality of unity and isolation. Every living thing is united in some type of interdependence with other living things. And that is why we cannot be an island. Or as the saying goes, no man is an island. You can't just say, I'm going to do this because this is going to benefit me, and think that what you are doing does not have consequence for those around you. Now, even though we're all interdependent, every species has attributes no other species has. That's what makes it a species. And so the human species has attributes that none of the rest of creation has. the most advanced of which was referred to by Minister Adrian, which is the ability to reason. Because as beautiful as flowers and trees and birds are, they don't sit and contemplate, why am I? See, only the human being has the power. A zebra doesn't say, why did he make me a zebra? The frog doesn't sit on the lily pad and say, I don't like being green, and my legs are too short. I wish I had a better shape. The frog is happy being a frog. He doesn't question it. He's in complete obedience. But we're the only ones that he has actually given us power to rebel. That's how much he loves us. He didn't have to give us that. We have the will to act contrary to his will. Because, as we have been taught this afternoon, he wants us to love him. He does not want to force submission from us. He wants us to voluntarily submit to his will because he knows that when we do his will, we will have happiness. And so, in the simple words of the great Mahdi, Master Farad Muhammad, accept your own and be yourself. You cannot have fulfillment of desires unless you obey this law. Stop looking in the mirror and finding fault. Because God didn't have a bad day when he created you. You are the product of his perception of beauty. When you desire something, remember this. When you desire a thing in the physical realm, its spiritual equivalent moves into the subjective area of your mind, and then your desire gains the capacity to take form. But if you don't have faith that what you desire is going to come to pass, then the desire will leave that part of your mind where it could have taken form, and it will return back into the higher realms of the universe for some more faithful person to draw upon and get what they desire. So remember that ideas have the power to gather and hold electric units in the atmosphere that can make everything you want come to pass. Remember this, beloved. Whatever we desire rightly and out of righteousness is already ours. Otherwise, we would not have desired it. Once you accept it, it is yours, whether it manifests yet in the visible world or not, because you heard us taught on the invisible. And the Holy Quran says the believers are those who believe not only in the seen, but what? In the unseen. We have to develop a consciousness of fulfillment by accepting that God has the power to make us prosperous. Now, once you have done all you can do to achieve your goals, then go to God in prayer and ask him, what should I do next? And he will answer you immediately. If not, if you don't get an immediate answer, it is because you have not done all you can do. See, we're too quick to say, I've done everything I did all I can do. No, we have such a narrow, lazy idea of what effort really is. Try creating yourself in the void and blackness of space from nothing. Now that's effort. Try calling light into existence in the darkness of space. That's effort. He has made it easy for us. So we have got to make up our mind that in truth, and I know this of myself, I am not doing all I can do to improve my life. And I have to commit myself to faith in the power of God to make me prosperous. So let's move into action, not tomorrow, but today. And get beyond just believing into the realm of experiencing divine power. So may Allah, God, bless all of us with the light of understanding as I leave you in peace with these words. Assalamu alaikum.
Minister Ava Muhammad. All praise are due to Allah. Sister Minister Ava Muhammad. All praises are due to Allah. This has truly been a blessed Sunday indeed. It really has. I mean, after such rousing display of wisdom, there's very little else that can be said.